This is Danny Dorman. The following is an edited version of the full interview. To find the full interview, please subscribe, and hopefully this will answer all your questions during this important voting season. Thank you. The holding off on new residential while the other older existing places were falling apart. Okay, so that was 1995. This is 2020. 25 years later, these may not be the same homes that you took care of and resolved, but we do have homes that are in that sort of, I won't say dilapidated, but in dire need of fixing up. And yet we are building more homes. So what stops us as a city to do a throwback to 1995 and take care of the existing homes before we start building new ones?
You know, I would have to see the specifics on that home. Was it because, are these new homes that are falling apart like ours were? You know, within 2 years after moving in, all of these problems were happening? Or is this a result of 20, 25 years worth of wear and tear on a house that hasn't necessarily been kept up? So you've got to look at the difference between the two of them. We also, I know that there are grants that are out there that can help these older neighborhoods. It's a matter of having residents letting us know, what is it that needs to take place? And that way we can go in and apply for those grants to help those neighborhoods. But if we're not hearing from the community, it's difficult to, you can't apply for a grant without having an area to actually apply the grant to. So it's kind of a catch-22 in there, but I, as I said, I'm open. I want to hear from people, whether it's good or bad. I want to hear from people so that I can help resolve those issues.
Okay, fair enough. Now, would it not be in the interest of new developers, all right, if the city put a moratorium and said, we are not building anything new until we address these homes? As you said, you're not hearing from anyone or any neighborhood, but if a developer is now stuck and can't do anything until the neighborhood is addressed, I would think that those developers would take it upon themselves to reach out to our citizens. And they would have that incentive. It's not that my home was built 17 years ago. And I'm still considered New Brentwood. Off of here, Stonebrook Estates. Shh, don't follow me. But and I know that the homes that were built after 2003 seem by and large to be well-built homes, but those aren't the homes I'm speaking of. I'm speaking of the homes that you dealt with in 95 and the homes that may have been in the 90s, late 80s, that maybe didn't have a problem in 1995, but have problems now. There are grants, that's great. Usually when someone says, and I'm going to be flippant, there's free money. Okay, where is it? It's not that people don't want grants. It's, well, where is it? How do I get to it? Most people will actually do that. And when you talked about the smart growth and you talked about the plan, this is going to be a two-part question, and I honestly don't know. Everyone says the plan. Now, usually plans require goals. I've been told a plan without a goal is a wish. And so, okay, we have this plan, but we have a plan that seems to keep getting amended. Now, as a project manager, one of the many hats I wore over life, That is called scope creep, where amendment after amendment after amendment changes the scope of the plan to the point where there's no longer a plan. The plan of
Yeah.
2014 does not look like the plan of 2020. So why is it that there needs to be a change in the plan if everyone in 2014 agreed to it? Well, why are we changing it? Why aren't we at least sticking to the plan to see if the plan works?
Yeah. No, and I understand what you're saying. And as I mentioned, the couple general plan amendments where we actually reduced the amount of housing units. And then the only other general plan amendment really that I can think of right now is, and rezone was for our priority area 1. But in the general plan, it was called to have a specific plan created for economic development with residential, in addition to that. But the residential component of it was included in the total gross population or total build out numbers. And by the time we were done with the specific plan for PA1, it's 430 acres in northwest Brentwood. It's between Lone Tree and Sand Creek. So it's south of Lone Tree, north of Sand Creek, west of Hindorn Ranch, and east of Shady Willow. If you're driving down the Highway 4 towards Home Depot, it's that area between the streets of Brentwood and Home Depot. So it's all that area.
On the left-hand side or on the right?
Both sides, both sides.
Both sides, okay.
Both sides. So that's economic development. It's called Employment Center Light Industrial. We're currently doing the master plan, which should be done in about 6 months. And we anticipate being able to market it after an environmental impact report within a year. And it's anticipated to bring in 8,600 high quality, high wage jobs. So we did reduce the amount of residential in there by, I want to say about 60. You know, it's, I know it's a reduction. I just don't know the exact number, but I think it's around 60 units that we ended up reducing it. I personally, when we drew out maps right in the beginning, there was 3 groups, and each group decided on how they thought that area should be developed. And my group had an intensive economic development area with very little residential. We didn't get our way. So the other 2 maps had substantial increase in residential, which I was very surprised with, because these were community members that were helping develop these maps. And to increase the population and the amount of units being built just went against everything that I had heard from residents, is that they didn't want more housing. We are currently in this master plan, re-looking at it, and will most likely reduce even more of that residential. One of the reasons why it was at the amount it was because BART would not come into Brentwood if there wasn't 2,000 units within a half a mile walking distance from the BART station. But, and I went to the BART board and I spoke to them and I talked to them about, this will be all employment center. I mean, you will get your ridership coming in there because people are going to work. They're coming in from San Francisco to work in Brentwood, and having that reverse commute or jumping on BART to do that. Will BART ever come here? Holding off for that land for BART, it just doesn't seem right. You know, Bishop Ranch does just fine, and they're not near a BART station. They do have a shuttle that goes out to from the BART station to Bishop Ranch, and we could do that as well from Antioch BART station. to this area.